Hey, 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 thank you for joining us. What's wrong with the screen? You have just tuned into Where is the Love? I am your host, Stephanie Hawkenhall. Mark, something's wrong with the screen. My sidekick is not here today, but we do have a special guest today. Thank you. But we do have a special guest today, and we are excited to bring her on our show because we have been talking about inner child work. If you are here joining us right now, you should be watching us on one of our YouTube channels, on Facebook, on LinkedIn, or I think I said YouTube. I'm a little rattled because my son ain't here. But anyway, like I said, we're excited to. You can also be watching us on podtv.tv, which is online. And guess what? We're on TV. We're on Roku or Amazon Fire right now, and only right now while we're airing the show at 5 p.m. Central Standard Time right now. So otherwise, you have to catch one of those other places that I just said. You have to catch it, catch the replay then. So with no further ado, I'm going to bring on stage Shalanda Smith. Mark. Okay. Um, Mark, whenever you can get her on stage, please bring her on stage. Again, we've been talking about inner child work. Inner child work is important to do because we experience so many things in our lives, um, so many things that we carry from our childhood into adulthood. Um, and we just carry those things because we don't know what else to do. I mean, that's what we've been used to doing. So we don't know what else to do except carry it like a backpack or like a sack on our back filled with all this stuff. Mark, where's Shalanda? Hey. Oh,
Hi,
Lord, this
Stephanie.
has got to get better.
Some greatness is coming.
Right, that's right. Welcome, welcome, welcome to our show. I didn't want to tell them about you. I want you to tell them about you, but I'm so excited that you are on the show today, and I'm so excited that you are fully aware of inner child work as per our discussion. And so we want to find out more about how inner child work and you doing your own healing at the same time and how all of that's working. So, first, welcome and introduce yourself, please, and tell us about Shalanda.
Thank you so much, first of all, Stephanie, for having me on your amazing show. I am so grateful, and I just want to give a shout out to my one of my best friends, Natasha King, for connecting us and giving me this opportunity. So thank you so much. But I am Shalanda Smith. I tell everyone I am the founder and the creator behind That Smith Girl Consulting. I'm a girl's girl. Went to Spelman College, so that was the backbone of all of my dreams coming true from the very beginning. The other thing is I'm a school counselor. So my 9 to 5 is school counseling, and I've been a school counselor in the K-12 setting. And that is pretty much who I am from there.
That's awesome. Again, we're excited to have you. Just to even know that, and thank you, Natasha, for introducing me to Shalanda. Just knowing that somebody else is working in that field and knows about it and is also healing at the same time and is doing other work to help others heal, not just the children, but to help others heal too, with your business. Um, this is it just all comes together so well at the right time, and that's how things work out. They come together at the right time. And so we just finished up talking about inner child work last week. We've been talking about it for the last 4 to 6 weeks. I lost track, but I know it was at least a month, but I know it was over a month as well. So it was exciting to learn that because Gina and I have both chosen to um, focus on healing and not the hurt. that we've experienced in our past. Our focus is healing and creating a legacy of love because of generational, we see hatred all over the world,
Yes.
everywhere, and so that's just our focus. And then educating about bullying is a hurtful thing too.
Mhm.
So our focus also is to, we've educated about that. And so on our logo, it says broken, delivered, and healed. And so, and that's love misunderstood, also now we've been in the healing phase and dealing with the healing phase for a few months. So tell us more about inner child work and what your knowledge is about that.
I could tell you that it is a process, and it's about progress. It's an everyday continuous thing. You never fully heal. You're really on a journey.
Yes.
Every single day you awaken to something else that you need to work on. And I would
Yeah.
say and like I tell people all the time, never expect perfection from me. Not even look, I just
Right.
imperfect right there.
Yeah.
So don't expect for me to be perfect, and I won't expect for you to be perfect. I'm going to meet you where you are, and
Yeah.
together we're going to go far.
Right.
So this is a journey for me, and it's not even one that I even knew I needed until I was probably at one of my lowest points in my life, and I had to realize that it wasn't about everything going. Yes, things go on around me, but it's also a little bit more into my control too. So I can only fix what I can control, and I learned how to focus on that.
Yeah.
But in doing that, I knew I need to go backwards so that I
Yeah.
can move forward beyond two steps.
Amen. Amen. That's really good and so true. Um, So, the first question I want to ask you is, as a school counselor who is actively guiding students, how has doing your own inner child work shaped the way you show up for the young people you serve?
I will say that I never expected to go into education. That was not my dream.
Yeah.
I knew I wanted to be a doctor. That was my dream. But life happened. And so I went off that path. But I realized that I love helping people and I love working with children when I entered that profession. And I always wanted to be a mom.
Yeah.
And in order for me to be a mom, I knew that there were some things generationally that I could not take forward into my parenting era. So
Yeah.
my inner child work has probably been the most important thing I've ever done for myself, for my family, and
Yeah.
especially for my students.
Yeah.
When I sit down with a young student, I don't see their present day choices. I see them, but I also see the little girl or the little boy that's sitting behind that behavior. And like I
Mm-hmm.
tell people all the time, behavior is a communication method. We
Yeah.
have to stop looking at behavior as an act. It's a
Yes.
communication method. So
Yes.
when a student is lashing out, when they're reacting in anger, when they isolate themselves, I know what it felt like when I was younger,
Yeah.
and I didn't feel heard, I didn't feel valued, I didn't feel seen. And so when I see that, I'm asking what is your story,
Yeah.
not what's wrong with you, because too many times we say what's wrong with people,
Yeah.
and it's more of what's their story, what are they bringing with them. And
Yeah.
when you look through those lens, it changes everything. It helps you be patient, creative, and open-hearted in how you come to resolutions. So doing that work means that I get to show up for them and myself without projecting any unfinished pain and trauma that I've gone through into their process.
Yeah. One of the things that I've learned to say is not what's wrong with you, but what happened to you.
Yes.
And so I've learned that through doing group counseling in schools, which is something that I didn't think I would be doing either. When I started talking and educating about bullying, because I've experienced it so much in the workplace, that was my focus.
Mm-hmm.
So my focus was to get to these adults, that are
Yes.
hurting and hurting others. And when I say something about bullying, people say those kids, and I'm like, oh, those kids grow up to be adults who has unfinished, has not taken care of their hurt and their pain, and so they're, still continuing to be a bully. So I was like, I want to be able to get to these adults, and so although I work with adults, I in the school system, as of
Mhm.
last year. Last October, I started working in the school system as a group counselor, doing 1 hour 1 hour resiliency program.
Mm.
So it is not, what's wrong with you and why are you acting like that? That's
Right.
what we normally say. But that doesn't help the kid because it's not what's wrong with you or why you acting like that. It's about what's hurting you, who hurt you,
Yes.
you know.
Mhm.
So you can add to that whatever you want to add to it. I just wanted to.
No, that was perfect. And my my favorite saying in the work that I do with my clients in school counseling is unhealed adults were unhealed children who never
Yeah,
received the healing that they needed. So
yeah,
they took that into adulthood with them. So
yeah,
it just makes perfect sense. And I don't know any other way to say that. This part is a lot of times people look through the eyes of the victim, but
yeah,
I like to look through the eyes of the villain
yeah,
because that villain has a story too.
yeah,
So what is that villain story? Would you be able to have empathy towards the villain of the story?
yeah,
Because oftentimes they have reasons for why they do what they do, and if you take it back to the backstory, they were hurt at some point, and they're
yeah.
bringing that hurt into this new story with them.
Right. And the saying is hurt people. And I mean,
Yes.
that's all we know. I'm still hurting. So I'm now
Mm-hmm.
protecting myself. So in my protecting myself, I could be hurting somebody else.
Yes.
And that may not be your intentions. And sometimes it is. It just depends on your mindset and, where that is. Um, so thank you for that. So the next question is, do you believe it's important for educators, counselors, and leaders to prioritize their own healing while still working with others?
You
Why or why
better.
not?
You
Go ahead.
definitely better. It's not just important, it's critical.
Yeah,
Because if you can't prioritize your own healing, then you're going to risk the people that you're trying to help heal
yeah,
becoming mirrors of your unhealed pain. Um,
yes,
and what I've seen is I've seen leaders who unknowingly they carried their unresolved wounds into classrooms,
yeah,
offices, workshops, staff meetings, counseling sessions,
yes,
and you can tell there is definitely a drastic and a very stark difference when someone has done their inner work.
yes,
They lead with clarity. They don't try to control. They
yes,
work with compassion and they don't
yes,
criticize. So
yes,
you have to prioritize healing. And it's not selfish to do that. Somewhere along the line, we found that it's selfish to care about ourselves.
yeah,
And so we let ourselves go and still try to heal others. You can't give to someone what you don't have. It's
right,
almost like a stewardship. And not only is it a stewardship, it's also a sacred responsibility that you have if you're guiding others towards healing.
yeah. That's good. Very good. So the next question is, what are some signs that unresolved inner child wounds might be impacting the way we teach, lead, or guide?
The signs that I've seen, it kind of sneaks in quiet ways. You wouldn't even know that these were signs, but you're overreacting to student defiance. You may not even think that's a sign of unhealed wounds, but it is. If
Yeah,
you overreact, you have to ask yourself, why did you overreact? And I say that every act has an action behind it. Your interaction and your reaction determines your action.
yeah,
So it reminds you that overreaction could remind you of a time when you felt powerless and
yeah,
you no longer want to feel like that. So that one student's act of defiance caused you to overreact so that you gain that control. You begin to overfunction, so you work yourself into exhaustion because you deep down you're still needing that approval.
yeah.
You're chasing it, people pleasing. That is something that I did for so long, because
I
I
did
I
too.
wanted I wanted to be heard. I wanted to
Yep,
feel value. I didn't want to hurt people's feelings.
yep.
But in doing that people pleasing, I wasn't pleasing myself.
Right,
I was
hurting yourself.
simply I was simply letting people take control of my life,
Yep,
and they were writing my story. So I had to snatch my pen back.
yep.
Um, And the perfectionism, that's
Yeah.
another thing. I'm still a perfectionist to this day.
Yeah.
I want to be anyway. Now, like I said, I know I'm imperfect, but that doesn't mean that I don't strive for perfectionism. And I think
Yeah.
people need to understand that. And what I mean by that is I know I can't show up in every space in a certain way. So I'm always very cognizant of how I'm showing up, how I speak, how I dress, how I'm looking. But what is that taken away from? Where did that come from? And there are so many layers to inner child wounds that we may not have enough time to go into them. But that perfectionism means that you're striving from a place of never being good enough,
Yeah.
and that's something that I felt almost my whole life. And so these are patterns that impact how we teach, how we guide, and how we lead if we don't tend to those patterns.
Yes. So, when you were talking about a few things, so when you were talking about, doing the inner child work and going back to that childhood, made me think about being able to recreate, by different parts of the creative parts of us,
Hmm.
now, because we're going back to that hurt child. And so some of those things that we wanted to do back then, we can now do. If we
Yes.
needed love, we can learn, love ourselves more. Whatever it is we needed, we can now give to that inner child. So I recognize that inner child in me. I recognize that hurt kid. And so now that kid needed this. This is what I needed then. So now
Yes.
I can give that to myself. Um, and something else you said, and you said this a little bit ago, but I didn't add to it, because anyway, so we have to fill our cups in order
Yes.
to be able to fill somebody else's cup. If we don't fill our cup with love and all of that, then we can't give it to somebody. And audience, if you're here, please feel free, whatever platform you're on, please feel free to type in any questions you might have or any comments. We would love to be able to converse with you. So just know that you're free to do that. We appreciate it. Um, so I'm so excited to have somebody else that knows about this and that knows the importance of it, um, and the value in it. To be able to deal with those things and to be able to grow and to help ourselves. I mean, I was a people pleaser too. That's what else I wanted to say. I was a people pleaser too for many, many years, and I was miserable. I was so
Yes.
unhappy. I cried all the time because, and so I was called a timid child. Well, it wasn't my fault because, I got my feelings hurt easy,
Hmm.
So then I'm finding myself, okay, what can I do? Maybe not saying this, but what can I do to make you happy? What can I do to make you love
Right.
me or like me? Those kind of things. And I was not a happy person. And now I'm like, man, forget you and that.
Absolutely.
I'm not getting ready to let you drive me crazy. I've been there too long. I'm
No.
done with all of that. So you can love me or leave me, whatever you choose, peace. Because I'm not going through all of that no more. I'm
No.
a whole nother person, and I thank God for healing me, and for helping
Yes.
me understand, that I didn't have to be that way. I have a choice, and so that
Absolutely.
word makes
Hmm.
things huge to me. Oh, so
Hmm.
this is what's happening. I don't like it. I can choose not to do that or not to accept it, and then
Yes.
I'm able to speak up for myself a lot easier than I used to. I was with my 21-year-old granddaughter yesterday, and I was telling her that I used to not be able to speak up for myself. I said, because I was speaking up for her about something, and I said, I've always been able to do this, but not to speak up for myself. And I said, but
Hmm.
I am so much better at that now. And it's because I learned the
Hmm.
value of choice. I don't have to do this. I don't have to receive this or accept that. I don't have to.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
anyway, you can add whatever you You
I
want to
think it's
add?
also generational too, Stephanie,
Yeah,
because when I think about it, I grew up in a time where children were seen and not heard.
yeah,
I grew up in a time where you respect your elders. And so when you grow up in a time such as that, you don't have that voice of advocacy. I didn't learn how to be an advocate until I was forced to. So a
yeah,
lot of my work comes from force and not choice.
yeah,
But I'm so glad, I'm so grateful and so thankful to God for that. He put me into a situation where I was forced to become who he molded me to be. And
yes,
so, in being a school counselor, you're always having to speak up. You're always having to advocate. You even have to go against the parents' grain sometimes because they think they know what's good for their children. And that's no, nothing against parents or anything like
right,
that. But when the child is coming to you and saying, I don't want to do that, but my parent is telling me that I have to go here, I I service the students. And
yeah,
so I'm like, well, okay, well, we have teaching them how to use their voice to share with their parents what their dreams are. Because as parents, we've had our rodeo. So
right,
now it's time to let our babies choose their dream.
yeah,
So that advocacy piece, that not staying quiet, that being a good girl type thing, quote unquote, persona, that didn't work. That wasn't working well for me.
yeah,
And it was allowing people to think that kindness means weakness.
yeah,
And I'm still kind, but I'm far from weak. And so sometimes you have to show people, and like they say, pop out and show them. So you have to let people know what you stand for, who you are. And I call that setting healthy boundaries.
yeah,
And people feel like they want you to set boundaries until your boundaries tell them what they can't do.
right,
Then it becomes a problem.
right,
Now you got conflict.
right, because they ain't trying to hear that.
Uh-uh.
So I want to ask you, that Smith Girl Consulting LLC. That obviously means that there's more than Shalanda and the family. So, are there other sisters? Is that why? That's okay. Tell me about that.
No, it's just so my husband is Smith, and
Okay.
I'm that Smith girl.
Okay.
I'm not the original Smith girl, but
Okay.
in our house, I'm that Smith girl. And then we have our two daughters as well, Lena and Justice. And this business was formed in January. I
Okay.
feel like it's always been in me, but it came from a loss of a position. And
Okay.
I said I never want to be stuck in a place where someone else is telling me what to do and how I show up into this world.
Right.
And people see me as a threat or a danger, so they go out their way to make sure I'm moved out the way, because I've been in that space too.
Me
And
too.
so I formed this because I see conflict as something that people run from instead
Right.
of contend with. And my goal is to help people understand that conflict is beautiful. You need conflict to grow. There are always solutions to conflict. So I bring beauty to conflict. And when there are arguments, disagreements, I show up. And I work with women. I love working with women because we are powerful. And when we come together, we are even more powerful. And like I said earlier today, I'm a girl's girl. But let me tell you, I'm the right girl's girl. I'm not every girl's girl, because I don't do mean girl. So I come in and I disrupt mean girl energy, and I bring the chaos of conflict to calm.
Yeah.
That's what that Smith Girl Consulting is about. We do mediations, conversations, and we bring peace to conflict.
I heard that. Come on with the peace to conflict. I love it. Okay,
Thank you.
so
I'm excited. I love it.
you should be that, because it's like, man, I'm that one. As you know, when I saw it, that's how I took it. I'm that one. I'm that Smith girl. Okay. I absolutely love it. So the next question I want to ask you is, how can doing the work of healing ourselves actually strengthen our ability to connect with and support students?
So I feel like when we've done that work, empathy deepens. Students know when you're keeping it real.
Yeah,
They know, they love authenticity, and they
yeah,
know fakeness. They can point it out like nothing. So when they sense that someone sees them as more than their behavior, they are going to connect with you. And if you're working in a school, you know that they're not learning anything until you build a relationship with them.
Yes.
And I
Yep.
don't understand how people don't understand that part.
Right.
You have to get to know every student. If your true goal is to change the trajectory of your school and where your school, in the culture and climate of your school, relationships must be built.
Yep.
So for me, healing has just made me a better listener.
Yeah.
That's the only way I can do this work. I listen. I truly two ears, one mouth. So
Yep.
I'm truly listening twice as much as I am speaking. And
Yep.
I do not come up, and I think this is very important for people to know. I don't come up with a single solution for a student's problem. I allow them to talk enough that they tell me what their solution is. Because if they can tell me what it is, they can own it. And if they
Yeah.
can own it, they can implement it. And if they can implement it, they can keep themselves accountable for it. So I can sit with them, and they can be in crisis, not in crisis. And I'm not in a rush to fix them. I
Yeah.
am in a rush to help them, because there's a difference between fix you. First of all, they're not broken.
Yeah.
You're not working with something fragile. They are human.
Yeah.
And they are allowed to go through emotions. They're allowed to have various thoughts. We all do. So I'm not trying to fix them. I'm trying to help them understand what it feels like to be seen, to be valued, to be heard. And that builds trust all by itself.
Yeah.
So that allows me to have a relationship so that real transformation for them can happen. But without that, without the relationship, any strategy is going to fall flat.
Right. So I like what you were saying, and something that I say a lot, quite a bit, is communication. You know, you have to
Yes.
communicate with people in order for them to open up. So um, if you don't communicate, which means mostly being a good listener,
Yep.
they are not going to just come to you and share stuff with you. And I use the example of, because I educate about bullying, I use the example of, stop saying your kids, or stop thinking that your kids are going to come to you about everything, because they are not. Think about what you did. Did you go to your parents about everything?
Sure
Absolutely not.
didn't.
So, right. So, and stop thinking they are too. They're not. I hear parents say, "My kid tell me everything." That's a lie.
They
They
don't.
don't, and they ain't. And so, so with the communication piece, in order for a kid to come to you about bullying, or about hurting in any way,
Hmm.
is you have to build that communication first.
Yeah.
How are you? How are you doing? How are things going? How are you feeling? And that's a constant thing. So I had a habit of, when my kids would come in from school, you know, every day, how did school go? What did you do at school today? Well, that's building
Hmm.
communication. And so when it came to, my son being bullied, a lot more in sixth grade. I'll just say that, because he was
Mm.
bullied throughout his school years, but we had the most problem when he uh, was in sixth grade, his first year in middle school. And so when he came in, and I looked at him, his whole demeanor was totally different than it. I mean, just that sad face. What's wrong? What happened? And so, because I had constantly communicated with them, how you doing, how you feeling, what you're doing, I would go in their rooms. They still talk about me. I have a son and a daughter. So I would go in their rooms, they're in their rooms watching TV, and I would just dive on their bed, and they was like, "Mom." And so my daughter, when she got to be 12, was always saying, "You play too much." No, I was just having fun, but just doing little silly stuff like that, and other
Hmm.
little silly stuff that I did, was showing them that I cared,
Yes.
and then asking them questions, help them see, she really does care. She's asking about me, and how I feel, and what's going on with me. So
Mm.
then I saw with my own eyes, okay, you're not the same. What's going on? What happened?
Right.
he was able to communicate with me. So listening, listening. I can't say it enough. We have
Yes.
to listen. Ask and listen. And don't try to, just because they're saying something that we don't want to hear or we think they need to say it a different way, don't keep trying to change things that they're saying, because then they're going to shut down and stop talking altogether.
Yes.
So, I mean, we have to let them be free. And I don't have to explain that, and don't nobody need to overdo what I just said. Because all I'm saying is we need to allow them to be free to say what they need to say, and what they're feeling
Yeah.
is mostly what I'm aiming at. Because if you shut them down on how they're feeling, they just gonna stop talking to you, and that's exactly what I mean, nothing else. So please don't take it somewhere else.
Can I add to that,
Yeah,
Stephanie? I,
please.
I work in middle school now, and I can tell you that the biggest thing for middle school students is they in that in between phase where they don't want to be children, but they aren't quite ready to be adults
Yeah,
either, but
right.
they don't want help either.
Yeah.
And so it's really funny because they think they know everything, but at the
Yep.
same time, they'll tell you they don't know anything, and I'm just a kid. And what I want to share with the parents, and I am a parent, and I can tell you I made a lot of mistakes as a parent. I didn't spend enough time with my children because I had to work.
Yeah.
My husband and I, we had to work. We're the ones, we have to put this food on this table, this roof over your head, this clothes and shoes on you. And so we spent a lot of time working. But what I do appreciate from parenting is I was there when they needed me to listen. And I think the biggest thing is you have to listen
You
to
have
them. If
to.
they're saying that somebody's bothering them or hurting, and I'm gonna say this, I'm gonna give you two it's a double edge because yes, listen for understanding, not for responding and not for fixing. And a
Yeah.
lot of times we want to fix, and a lot of
Yep.
times we also jump to conclusions because it can't be my child, or my
Yeah.
child would never. Let me tell you something about what my child would never do. Because we're never around, that
Yeah.
child at school is very different from that child at home, because kids have the
Absolutely.
code switch to thrive with
Yep.
bullying,
Yep.
cyberbullying, all of those ings that they go
Yep.
through. They
Yep.
have to code switch. So the child that you think you know may
Yeah.
not be the child that we know at the academic level. And
Right.
also, time is so important, and I just want to say that too. A lot of the inner child wounds come from the fact that there's not enough quality time with one or both parents,
Yeah.
and so they're always looking for something, and we can't buy time can't be replaced with gifts. Time can't be replaced with game systems. Time can't be replaced with all of these things. If anything, a family vacation is great because you're going to be time, but make sure you close the computer, put down the phone, so that you really truly do have that time, that quality time, because time is not something that you can ever get back. And one of my greatest regrets that I have is I didn't have enough time with my children. I thought I wanted them to be grown up, but then now I miss them being children. I miss them
Yeah.
being babies. And
Yeah.
you get what you ask for. And
Yeah.
so now I'm here in this phase of life, and they don't really need me as much. And so that is something that I would tell parents is cherish the time and don't let things become a replacement for you.
Yeah. That's really good. That is really good, because we really have to cherish that time.
Mhm.
And again, listening is key. We have to listen, not listen to respond or react, as you said earlier. We have to listen just because that's what they need.
Yes.
Oh, so now I know I can come to you about things because I know you're going to listen and not judge.
Yes.
And listening without judgment is important for kids, because it don't take much for them to be like, well, they just gonna get mad, so I'm not gonna say nothing, or
Right.
they just gonna start yelling, so I'm not gonna say nothing. So listening, and it's hard sometimes, man. It's hard. You be like, oh, I want to say something. But if you want them to keep talking to you, better learn how to listen and stop talking.
Say it to put
So
it in
what
here.
yeah. Okay, so the next question is, what practical steps can school counselors or educators take to begin healing while they're still serving in high demand roles?
Woo, let the world know, because I know the world thinks that educators have all this summertime off, all these breaks. But let me just dispel that whole myth. We do not get the luxury of long sabbatical so where we can go and heal. So while we're doing this hard work, we have to do the hard work. So one thing that has been a new practice for me, and I now have the students doing it as well, is something called finding micro joys. So
Hmm.
small little things that you can find joys in, because at the end of the day, we can become so rushed, and life is such a rush that we forget to be grateful for the smallest things. And like
Yeah.
I tell people all the time, you can complain about something, but somebody's complaining about something even more. So find and create micro joys. And in this role, you have to have micro practices. So some things you could do is journaling for 5 minutes before the
Yes.
school day starts. And I know you're saying, when do we have time for that? Because I'm making copies and da da da. And I will tell you, time management is not our strong suit in education, because we get inundated with so many demands.
Yeah.
But I believe in block scheduling. You have to block your time. You have to force yourself into your schedule somewhere, because if you do not, you cannot, you're going to burn out.
Yes.
So you have to force that time. Do some breathing, practice breathing. Before you react or act, do some box breathing. Also create a healing playlist for your drive home, to drive to work or to drive home. Have a playlist ready for you. Most of all, and I tell people all the time, pray and also go to therapy. Yes, pray and also go to therapy,
Yeah.
so you can have a pure healing circle, with people that you trust, people that you hold in confidence. The biggest thing is integration. So we know that healing, it doesn't always happen in like these big dramatic moments. I know that's not the case for me. And sometimes you have to build it brick by brick. And it has to be able to be integrated into your everyday rhythm. Otherwise, when will you ever do it? And it will always be, oh, I do that tomorrow, or I do that next time. But at the end of the day, you're still hurting other people while you're hurting yourself,
Yeah.
because you're not taking the time to heal. And
Yeah.
it is a process.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that, because I'm part of um, a training right now for childcare providers, and so in that and so the name of it, a friend of mine is doing it, and I'm one of the trainers, and so we're teaching the childcare workers and daycare owners. We're teaching them how to take care of themselves first. And so it's called intentional teaching. So, giving them the focus and helping them to understand that you got to get you first. You got to do
Yeah.
you first so that you can prepare you to go into the classroom and to be able to lead intentionally and lead well,
Mhm.
intentionally. So the tips that you gave, like journaling and breathing and music. And there's so many things that you can do to prepare yourself so that whatever it is you are coming from home with,
Mhm.
you're leaving that at home, so to speak.
Yes. Yes.
And so, okay, how am I going to be when these kids come in? What am I dealing with? Okay, let me deal with this now. So when they come in, they're not getting pieces of this, pushed onto them because I'm not ready. So
Right.
it's so important to prepare yourself and get yourself together first, because that's part of filling your cup so that you can fill somebody else's cup, or so that you can be prepared if they need you. to
Mhm.
fill their cup, but definitely being prepared to deal with them well. That's
Mhm.
not quite what I wanted to say, but that's what came out. So, um,
It was
but
good.
yeah, but we have to do that though. It's so important, and recognizing that, not just recognizing it, but recognizing it and doing it is
Yeah.
so huge, and it's so helpful to those that we're gonna be dealing with throughout the day. Cause
Mhm.
I didn't come from home mad, and so now I'm mad at and lashing out at everybody that comes to me today because I'm still carrying this anger from home, or from work going home, so we really have to fill ourselves up first. And so, however that looks for you, Shalanda gave you some tips. So, use those. I mean, start with those. Those are ways to start. You want to add anything to that?
No, I think you covered it.
Okay. All right. So, the next question I want to ask is, some people think you need to be completely healed before you can help others. How would you respond to that belief?
I,
Ain't nobody ever gonna be completely healed. Look, I'll help you out on that.
I feel like
Nobody.
I am. Please let me know anyone out there who has been completely healed.
Right.
I think that
Hello.
belief is unrealistic, and I also think it's harmful too,
Yeah.
because healing isn't a finish line. Like you're not gonna ever check it off.
Yeah.
It's a lifelong journey,
Oh
and
yeah.
if I was to wait until I was completely healed, this I should not be in this space that I'm in
Yeah.
at all. I
Yeah.
think what makes it real, what makes it valuable, is the fact that I bring life experiences, and I also bring healing into the space,
Yeah.
continuous healing into the space. Because if you continue to heal, you will continue to change and grow and evolve into the person
Absolutely.
that you are, and you'll be able to help people see people in different stages, phases of life. So I think that type of healing, or understanding that healing is a lifelong journey, it just brings awareness. Helps you to know, are you aware of your triggers? Are you taking responsibility for your healing instead of making other people carry it? Because
Yeah.
too often we have other people. You mentioned the backpack and the sack earlier. Sometimes that it becomes so heavy for us that we try to
Yep.
turn it over to somebody else.
Yep.
Now, how unfair is that? And I think that humility keeps me human. It keeps me approachable. And students, first of all, they try to be perfect, and it's because they see us trying to be perfect.
Yeah.
So when they see that we're okay with imperfection, they can become their authentic selves. And
Right.
they don't even need perfect leaders. What they need are real leaders,
Yep.
people who see them. And I'm going
Right.
to say it again: see me, value me, hear me.
Yep.
That's what students need. They're not looking for people who are completely healed at all,
Right.
because they're not going to ever show up that way.
Right. And you said it best earlier when you said they see genuineness, they see
Mhm.
authenticity, they know when you're real and when you're not, when you
Yes, they do.
pretend it. And
Yes, they do.
and depending on what age they are, they just gonna tell you you ain't real. You fake. You, they don't mind, especially around the age of 6. They just gonna tell it like it TIA.
Out of the mouth of babies.
Right. But some of them preteens don't mind either. Just telling you like it is. So
No,
Mark said, great guess. Healing is a continuous process. Thank
thank
you,
you.
Mark.
Yes, it is.
So and I'm so glad that we understand that healing is a continual process, because we could get ourselves in a lot of trouble thinking we
Yes,
made it, we arrived. That's a lie.
say it.
We ain't gonna never arrive, you know. Well, so I'm so glad that, yeah, because I was getting ready to go somewhere else, but I'm gonna leave that alone. But I'm just thankful that we know that and that we understand that. As long as we live, as long as we breathe, we're gonna be continually healing, because as we're living, things are constantly happening that's
Yeah.
hurting us or that's affecting us in a negative way. And so it's all about knowing and understanding that we have a choice to heal.
Yes.
Okay, this is what you're dealing with, this is what you face, and what you're gonna do with it. Okay,
Mhm.
well, I don't like some people say I don't want some of that. So so if you don't want some of that, then you have a choice to say I don't want that and go on about your business.
Yes.
But if you want to, be like, I gotta take it because it's so and so, and
Mhm.
this is their title or this is their position, then you're gonna be jacked up, because we don't have to take everything that happens to us. And I used to feel like that too.
Say it.
Well, they have this title, or well, they're this person, so I gotta put up with her, I gotta deal with her, I gotta take
Mhm.
it. No, the
Mhm.
devil is a lie. I ain't got to.
No.
So I'm just thankful to know that much, because
Yeah.
that gives me a lot of peace of mind, just knowing, I have a choice,
And
no
I can
matter
tell
what it
you,
is.
if a title is the it determines how you treat people, you don't even deserve that title, and you also need to
Right,
do some healing.
right,
Because a title
exactly.
is simply that. It's simply saying what your salary should be, but it's never telling you how you should treat other people.
Right.
So I always tell people, you know who you are by how you treat others, and
Yeah.
that determines it. But we all need some form of healing, and that is
Yes.
a belief that I have, and I stand by that.
And I believe it too. I absolutely believe that too. So the next question I want to ask is, why is teaching healing just as important as teaching academics or conflict resolution in schools and
Mm.
organizations?
I'm so glad you asked that question, because the one thing I want to say is a lot of people really don't understand social emotional learning. If you were to take the words apart, they really define themselves.
Hmm.
Um, I will say, because it's a trigger word in so many places now, because people don't understand what it is and think you're harming instead of healing.
Yeah.
But that whole thing is about understanding humanness. And
Hmm.
if I can't see a person as a human, then schools might as well just shut down, because we're playing with people's lives when we can't see them in their most sincere moments. And
Yeah.
so healing belongs in schools, because at what point do students know how to check their wounds at the classroom door? We don't even check our wounds. We
Right.
bring it into the space. So if
Hmm.
we want to teach conflict resolution, leadership, or math, we have to acknowledge the soil that we're planting in.
Yeah.
Um, and when healing is embedded into education, academics thrive.
Yeah.
We want to have grade A schools. We want all of these scholars to be nationally recognized, but we're telling them do that, but be unhealed too. And
Yeah.
so how can they focus as a learner? Because a healed child is a focused learner. Not only that, they are resilient problem solvers, and they are compassionate leaders. So do we want realness and focus, realness and resiliency, realness and compassion, or do we want to just say those words because they sound nice and they trend? And we really can't afford to separate healing from learning. We simply can't afford to, because where we are, I tell people all the time, if you want to check society, check the schools. If the students are hurting, society is hurting, and
Yeah.
so many of our babies are hurting, and so many people are, they act like they can't see it, they don't hear it, whatever the case may be. But because I'm an empath, I can feel it. And
Yeah.
so and it hurts to know that these babies are trying to get attention any and every kind of which way, because they need healing, and no
Yeah.
one is really understanding what they're saying. They think grades are, a reflection of what's going on. And some people, I made great grades in school, but that didn't mean that I wasn't hurting behind those grades. No one
Yeah.
ever thought to ask me that, because I was a great student. So I say look at students for holistically and who they are.
We need more people like you in those spaces that understands that and are empathetic to it and compassionate to it,
Hmm.
because kids are hurting. We don't know what these kids are going through. at
Yes,
home
we don't.
outside of school. All we see is what's going on in school. So that's one of the things that helped me relax a little bit more with the kids is thinking, well, this kid is acting out, this kid is doing this or doing that, but what's happening before they come here?
Mm-hmm.
So what's making them, what happened to you?
Right.
You know, what is happening to you? Is somebody, so it's so important. It's so important
So
to,
important.
so thank you for doing the work that you do. And to those that are doing the same kind of work that you're doing and that see the importance of and the value in healing while, trying to get this work,
Mm-hmm.
this education, that's so important. And the kids need that. They
Yes.
need to know that somebody cares, because at home, are they getting that? Are they knowing that somebody cares? Are they being told that they're loved? Are they getting what they need? you know so many people, parents are hurting and not able to lead their kids well. So the kids, see that and think this is the way of life. But then they
Yes.
come to school and they're around different people and they don't really know how to deal with the different people, except for however I act, whatever I feel, I'm going to say that, I'm going to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's important to have people in their lives that are paying attention to them and that realize, okay, something's going on.
Mm-hmm.
Let me listen. I'm keep going back to that. Let me listen. Let me ask and listen without
Yes.
judgment to see how I can help this kid, because they're crying out for something, um, not just that attention, but for help. And
Yes.
they
Yes.
don't always know how to say, hey, help me. My mom is doing this, or my dad is doing this, or this, my family, my siblings. They don't, and, s-
They
and a lot of times, and this is something that stood out in group counseling for me at first. So, like the junior high school students, and when I say this, this is going to recollect with you. So, like asking them questions like how many people do you have in your family, or something, like anything like that. They're just trying to get to know them.
Yes.
you
Yes.
know Tell me a little bit about your family. Well, that's a personal question. My mama told me not to trust nobody. So how are we supposed to, and this is what I was dealing with junior high students, how are we supposed to get to these kids? So remember, when we were growing up, that
Mm-hmm.
we were hearing what goes on in my house stays in my house.
Stays in the house.
What I just said is the same thing, just different words. My
Yeah.
mama told me not to trust nobody. That's a personal question. All you doing is trying to have a conversation. How many brothers and sisters do you have? That's just a question, but that was a personal thing, just like it was personal when we
Mm-hmm.
were growing up. So keeping you silent,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and so you don't know when to open up or who to open up with. So that's just something that I had to deal with. So I understand that, you
Mm-hmm.
know, kids can't share their healing because they're basically told to be quiet, just be quiet.
Yes. Yes, they
If
are.
you're hurting, just be quiet. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
not gonna ask, as a parent, I'm not gonna ask you, are you hurting? Did somebody hurt you? I'm not gonna ask you none of that, because I know
Right.
you are right. But
Mm-hmm.
this kid is suffering,
Mm-hmm.
because I can't talk to my parents. Then I come around somebody else that cares and ask me, what's going on with you? Do you need help with something? And now you're being nosy. So my parents told me not to trust you. So that's a double, just be quiet.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're
Mm-hmm.
silenced and not able to share your pain, not able to share your hurt. So sometimes it can be a little crazy. So again, thanks for the work that you do. It's so important.
And thank you too, Stephanie. I can, because talking about bullying and resilience, those are some really deep topics, and can
Hmm.
be challenging too, because a lot of times people confuse mean moments with bullying, and a lot of people think that resilience, our students are resilient,
Yeah,
but that's not necessarily true.
yeah.
Um, students, we're as a human being, you are going to survive challenges because that's just within us, but it
Yeah.
doesn't make you resilient.
Yeah.
So resilience has a whole nother layer of thriving with that comes with it. And I tell people all the time, middle school students, and I have to go to middle school because that's where I am, but those tweens and those teenagers, they want to talk to somebody. That's why they stay on their phones.
Yeah.
So they are looking for some type of connection.
Yeah.
You're competing with social media. You're competing with group messages. You're
Yep.
competing with boyfriends and girlfriends. You're competing with chats and games and things like that. So they're looking for something, and
Mm-hmm.
they want to share what they're going through with someone, that they
Yep.
would even reach out to a stranger
Yep.
to make a connection. And you just
Mm-hmm.
have to figure out what is the missing puzzle. What's that missing puzzle piece that will make you be the person that they go to first? That's what I really want to share with parents is they're there. They are waiting. You just have to figure out what they need.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And like you said, they go to anybody that will listen. And
Yes.
so that's how people end up in gangs. That's how people end up,
Yes.
you know, on drugs and different things like that, because those are the people that were listening to
Mm-hmm.
them. And again, listening is so important.
Yes.
Without judgment, I have to add that, because we can listen
Yes.
and then listen without, okay, as soon as they say this, I'm going to say this. As soon as
Yes.
they finish this, I'm going to say this. No, that's not really actively listening, because you're preparing. So you're not hearing the whole thing because you're preparing your own speech or
That's
your
right.
own response. And so that doesn't help the kids. And so on social media, like you said, they're being cyberbullied. You know,
Mm-hmm.
they're going into these chats and, well, I can talk to this person and tell this
Mm-hmm.
person, so my parents won't find out because I'm telling them. But do you really want them to be telling a stranger? Wouldn't you prefer that they be telling you, and that they be um, seeking the trust in you and the conversation in you to help them, and not some stranger? Kids, boys and girls, are coming up missing because people, they're available on, on social media. And so somebody is telling them, befriending them and telling them to meet them here, meet them there. And then they come up missing. And you had no
Mm-hmm.
idea because you didn't take the time to listen. You didn't take the time to talk, first of all, to get the conversation started. And then to listen to what they're saying, to listen to their hurts and pains instead of telling
Mm-hmm.
them, oh boy, that don't mean nothing. Oh girl, that don't mean nothing.
Yes.
you know uh Take up for yourself, speak up for yourself. Listening is so important. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I just have to keep saying that because it is. And people, you got to understand. We
Yes.
got to understand. Yes, we're tired when we come home from work, and we so they're on their phones. So good, they're away from me, but what are they seeing? What are they doing on their phones? And then they're seeing negative things said, to them or about them, in chats and on social media posts. And then so that stuff hurts. And so that's when why people are how do they Tasha told me how to say it. But I can't remember. Not Are dying by suicide.
Yeah.
So because they don't feel like nobody care.
Mm-hmm.
So we are at the end of our show. And I thank you so much for coming on the show. I thank you for sharing the information that you did. Keep doing the work that you're doing. Your work is valuable and very meaningful to society. We
Yeah.
need your help. We need people like you that are helping us desire to
Yeah.
heal. So you keep healing. I'm going to keep healing. Jean's going to keep healing. We're going to create a legacy of love because we are giving love and we are going to receive love. And so we just got to keep doing what we're doing. So bye for now. Y'all take care. Shalanda, thanks again for
Thank
showing up and
you.
showing out.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye for now. Sending you peace and love. Take care. Peace for now.